All right, so I'm sitting here with the South African heavyweight champion, Juan Roux. Congratulations, firstly, on that night against Fick. Talk to us about the emotions of becoming the champion, firstly.
Well, it was a massive night, and also it came out of like nowhere, if that makes sense. I fought for the title on 4 days' notice. At the end of the day, I was saying at the beginning of last year, I was like, listen, I want to fight for the title at the end of this year, because you have to have like 4 fights and you can challenge for it on your 5th. And I was like, listen, let's just go, and let's just get all these fights out of the way, and let's go for the title at the end of this year. And then, stuff happened. There were cancellations. I was supposed to fight the number 1, then the number 2, then the number 1 contender again. And, cancellations and them pulling out, or Sutherland pulling out. And then, Sutherland was supposed to fight Fick, and then all of a sudden they just 4 days, and they're just like, listen, you can fight for the title. And I'm like, yeah, it's big, but I'm gonna do it, because I felt like it was, it was God's plan, And the thing is, like, I felt like if I didn't do it, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And luckily, I'd been training very hard the entire year, and I also train for every fight. I train like it's a 12-rounder, So I feel confident. I felt confident in my gas tank for at least 10 of those 12. So I was stressed, but I was happy to take it. And then it just happens, and it's just, yeah, you overcome with emotion. You just I use the word vindicated, because it's been such a long road. It's been such a hard, long road just to get to where I am right now, and I'm nowhere near done. But it's just been such a hard road. Like the past 5 years of my life, I started boxing like in February of, I think, 2017, and it's just been, it's been hardcore. I've just been going at it. It's just been setback after setback, and now, and on that night, in those 5 minutes after the fight, everything just came together, and I was just like, wow, it's like the first time I felt like, everything I've worked for has come to fruition, and all those extra hours I put in, all those extra runs, all those times my coach told me we're done, and I was like, listen, 5 more, I can do 5 more, you know what I mean? Everything, all that just came together, and it's just, I'm smiling now, because I relive it, and I'm just like, and every time I watch the video as well, it almost brings a tear to my eye, because I'm just, it was such a hard road to get there, and like I said, I'm nowhere near done, and that's why I said it lasted for about 5 minutes, and then I was like, gotta go to the gym again. Well, enjoy my vacation first, but then I had to get back in the gym, and just work towards it, because at the end of the day, you ask what next. Like, when I started this whole thing, I was 180 kgs, right?
What? 180?
Yeah, I was very overweight. I was properly obese. So I was like, I had a 4-step plan.
Can I have a question for you? Before you even started wanting to fight, was the 180 first like a weight loss thing for you?
So it's a long story. I've told it a few times, but so what happened was, after high school, I went from about 90 kgs to 180 kgs in about 2 years, and I was like, it's just lethargy and just sitting the whole time, and doing nothing with myself, and
like playing video games?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I've played a lot of video games. Yeah. And I was I was on antidepressants as well. I was very depressed, and I was on antidepressants for about 5 years, and they made me gain weight, And I'm not gonna say I was eating perfectly, but it wasn't like nearly as bad, like that I could blow up to 180 kgs like that, if that makes sense. So like I said, you double your body weight in 2 years. It's a bit hectic. So when I finished high school, I was like, okay, I need to get a part-time job. And then I was like, I was in between bouncing and bartending, because I was always a big guy, so I was like, oh, bouncing's easy. Bouncing's not easy. I've learned that.
Have you had a few scraps?
it's not that I've had a few scraps. I've worked as a bouncer while I was boxing a bit. And usually we could resolve it with words, you know, because when a guy that's about, at that point I was still 150, but I could fight. And when a guy comes up to you and is 150 kgs and is like, listen, you don't want to talk it out. They were like, yeah, they were receptive. Let's put it that way. But luckily I wasn't like with any like big breakers or anything like that, you know, guys that really wanted to fight. So yeah, luckily. But I've heard a few horror stories when it comes to that stuff. So, you know, I'd rather steer clear of that right now. Yeah. But when it comes to, like, at that point, I was like, yeah, it'll be easy, you know, I'm big, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, but then I was like, okay, but let's check maybe bartending. So I was like, okay, and I went to this one, well, my dad went to one of his friends that is one of the owners of the Bossa group. And he asked, listen, can you get my son maybe a job as a bartender? And they're like, yeah, let him come in for an interview. Blah, blah, blah. End of the day, they're like, oh, 180 kg yoke, let's put him behind the bar. And they did, you know, and it lasted for about a day. And then the second day, I just couldn't take it anymore, you know, because standing and stuff like that, you know, and I dislocated my knee. And then I was out for about 6 weeks, and, you know, then knee's was a whole process to get back on track, and now it's 100%, you know. But it's like, then after that, the owner of the Bossa, or one of the co-owners of the Bossa group, his name's Sabas. He told me, listen, I hear you like fighting, because I went in originally asking for a bouncing or a bartending job, and he's like, yeah, I heard you like fighting. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, so how do you feel about boxing? I'm like, you mean bouncing? He's like, no, boxing. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I went and I talked to him, and he's like, yeah, listen, let me send you to this one guy and go train with him a bit. And then I went, and like, that was a process, you know. Like I started out training in Tokai every day, you know, and that I live in Brackenfell. It's about an hour drive, 50 k's every morning. And I had this 650 scrambler that I was driving through traffic, and I was weaving through traffic every single morning at 7 to get there at 8 to train, you know. And I did that in winter, everything. And I went and I trained, and I did that for about 7 months, lost about 30 kgs, you know. And luckily, you know, Bossa was supporting me through that whole journey, and my parents as well, you know. I just had a fantastic support system, you know. And, you know, that's why Bossa right now is like, they're a sponsor of mine, and they're going to stay a sponsor, you know what I mean. They fantastic. They've just been supporting me since amateur days already. Before I even had my first amateur fight, they were supporting me, you know. So yeah, and then I went from there. I got into a bike accident after 7 months, and you know, obviously I dropped the pills and everything, and then like 2 months went by because I couldn't train while after the bike accident. And then when I got back, I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. And I trained again for about a month, and then they sent me to the farm, right, which was Ruan Visser's farm, where Ruan Visser had his training camps with Vlad at that point. And they sent me there when I was 150 kgs. And they're like, listen.
That's no joke, eh?
No joke. Yeah. Luckily, Vlad always, like, I had to spar them. That's the thing. Like, I had to, and I was 150 kgs, you know, it's not easy. So the first order of business for them was make me lose 30 kgs. That was their first thing. They're like, listen, 120 kgs, and then, you know. So I was like, sure. And, you know, but while I was losing the weight, I was still sparring and everything like that. But luckily, they always treated me, well, Vlad always treated me in sparring, he treated me cordially, you know what I mean? He never took advantage.
Yeah.
He just got the work in with me. You know, he never took liberties with me. The one time I remember I hit him with a shot, and that's the first time I hit him like with a proper shot, and he's like, okay, and I'm just like, oh no. That was hectic. Yeah, 100% it was. At that point, it was very terrifying. Now I've got a lot of respect for Vlad. You know, I think he's 18, 19 and 0 right now. Yeah, he's on his way to a world championship fight. And I'm very excited for him. You know, he's training with Bashir you know, and me and Bashir also got some work in on the farm and everything I get. Bashir was also one of my first like trainers. He taught me a lot, you know, everything. So I've been exposed to a lot of people. But in any case, so I went to the farm, I lost about 30 kgs, came back, gained about 10 again, because I was just, you know, it's just after losing 60 kgs in what amounted to like a little over a year, I think my body kind of bounced back from that, you know, and that was, you know, then the 10 kgs, but I lost that again. So yeah, but what was the question?
We're going back to your night against Jan Fick, but you've gone on.
Oh yeah, a bit of a ramble. I do that sometimes. I really do. I'm a bit of a. I go on a bit of tangents, and then.
I wanted to lead up to my next one. It was right. You were like kind of under wraps. We spoke about this off camera. In Cape Town, you're building up on the Cape Town scene, but you really came onto the South African radar with your stoppage of Wilhelm, which was no one saw coming. He's quite an intimidating big guy. Talk us through that night.
So, I like taller fighters. I don't know what it is, but it puts me like in this underdog mentality, and obviously even though I might not be, it just puts me in that mentality, and that kind of gets me going, you know, and that's. It's always been the case. I think it's because when I started my sparring journey and my boxing journey, my first proper sparring was against Ruiz, you know, tallest guy you've ever met, you know, and you know I've put in a lot of rounds. Yeah, on that farm I probably put over 500 rounds in, right? And of sparring, you know, with Visser, with Shirenko, you know, everybody there. And you know, I've always liked to get in against the guy, you know. And the thing is, we knew that if we made it out of the first round, we were fine, because he never had a gas tank, you know. And that to me was like a big thing, you know, like, okay, just get through the first round. But I do trust my chin as well, and I also trust my defense, you know. Like, you know, having a chin is great, but I've worked a lot on my defense. 100%, you know, it's like
one day that's going to come in and actually, you know, test that chin to the limits.
No, I was in my third fight. In my third fight, I fought a guy called his name's Nico Yamchi. Okay. That guy hit me hard. Like I've never been hit that hard in my life, and not by Visser, not by Shirenko, nobody. That guy hit me properly hard. That is a night I will remember for the rest of my life. That made me realize that, listen, I need a bit more than a chin. And I mean, at the end of the day, we worked on my defense and everything like that. So when you go look at the Nebe fight, short as it is, right, you can still see, like, when he came out, he was kind of dominating. You know, he was putting on a domineering. He was putting on a domineering performance, because he was coming forward. You know, and it's a lot of weight when you've got a guy coming at you that weighs that much. You know, even though you weigh a lot, you know, and he's just throwing punches. You know, you need to. And he's punching down. So it's like, it's a lot to handle, and you kind of just got to weather that storm, because you know also a big guy can't keep that up, you know. And when I weathered the storm, while I was weathering the storm, I was blocking a lot. Like, he connected a few shots, but none of them landed cleanly, and I was happy about that, you know. And I kind of weathered it. I switched guards a few times to like see what worked best. And then I remember I was thinking in the middle of the round, and he was pushing me around. I don't like getting pushed around, because I'm a pressure fighter, you know. And
So were you frustrated?
I wasn't frustrated. No, there's a big difference between the two. I was angry.
Okay.
I did not get frustrated. I remember thinking to myself, this is on TV, and this guy's pushing me around.
You don't like that?
And I remember I looked at him in the middle of the round, and I asked him, I'm like, you, and then I remember as soon as I said you, he hit me once, and I was like, and I looked at him again, I'm like, you thought this was going to be easy, brother? And then I went at him. Like, I kind of lost myself for a bit there.
I want to ask, because he's knocked out quite a few guys. I mean, how do you rate his power?
You know, I never want to talk down about somebody. I think that Nebe was very powerful when he was like 130, 135, you know, like, and I think that's just because you got so much weight behind that, you know what I mean? But when it comes to you know, boxing is a combination of a lot of things, right? Like you can club someone with a mallet, you know, and that will hurt. But if you stab them with a knife, for example, yeah, that'll hurt in its own way too. Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's a dumb analogy, but I'm basically comparing speed to power, you understand? And at the end of the day, I think what Nebe lacked in speed, he kind of made up for with all that weight, you know what I mean? And that's why he knocked people out. But when you go against a guy that's got a decent defense, right? He was fighting guys that was 0-0. Like he knocked out JP Steenkamp, who just lost to
Sean Potgieter.
Sean Potgieter, yeah. So like that was an impressive fight, sure, and it was a good knockout. I think he got him straight on the button. But you know, at the end of the day, it's like before that, I remember he fought a guy called, I think it's Danny Nkok. Yeah, that guy. No disrespect to Danny, I just can't pronounce his last name. So he fought him, and I saw he went the distance, right? And over 4 rounds, when you're fighting a guy that's 90 kgs and you can't knock him out, that's when I knew there was cracks. You understand? That's when I knew that, listen, his power's not all it's it's chalking up to be. You understand what I mean? So to me, that was like a big thing. I was thinking about that, and I was just like, okay, I just got to weather the storm for 1 round. And then while he was attacking me, you can see I counted a few times and I kept pushing on him as well. Like even though he was pushing me, I was going in the breathing. In the moments he was breathing, I was going at him, right? And that made him tired even faster than a round. And then he was kind of taking that breather, you know, you take after a combo, and that's when I started. And that's when I went at him. And you know, when you're getting hit like that, you get even more tired. And when you're getting pushed like that, you're just getting, you know, on the ropes, you're hammered, you know. It takes a lot out of you, and that's when, you know, that's when my fitness, my conditioning, everything just shine through, you know. And it's like it's what we train, you know what I mean. And I was very happy about that. So yeah. And I remember he was on the ropes, and I was, you know, I remember in my 4th fight. My 4th fight, I connected a bunch of punches, right? I threw those punches in bunches again. And I remember I fought, and I went at him, and the ref didn't stop it, right? And I was just like, okay, I need to stop trusting the ref to stop this, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I think that's also a bit of my good nature shining through in the ring, and I kind of need to, and I needed to leave that behind, if that makes sense. So
you've changed now.
Yeah. At that stage, I remember I had him on the ropes and his eyes kind of floated into the distance, and I was like, okay, the ref's probably going to stop this now, but I'm not stopping.
Yeah. I remember that. I just remember like he looked like staggered, and like he looked defensive at that point, like, and you just had to continue until defenseless until the referee had to. Well, eventually the towel was thrown in. The referee didn't do it. Actually,
the ref didn't stop it, and I mean, you know, benefit to Nebe as well. He's a big guy. You know, and I mean, he can take a lot of shots. And I mean, at the end of the day, maybe the ref didn't think it did that much damage. But obviously his corner knows him, you know. Yeah. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, when you're still standing after taking these shots, right, you got to think to yourself as well, the ref, obviously, you got to think to himself as well, like, this is a big guy. Maybe these shots aren't landing like as cleanly as I think. And, you know, it's a lot of punches, you know, and everything like that. But his corner obviously knew him, and they can obviously see in body language, you know, and that's what I saw as well. I saw body language, and I was like, okay, he might be ready to fall, but I'm not stopping until the ref pulls me off. And that's when you can see that we were in his corner, and I remember it very clearly. I was hitting him, and I was like, okay, but I'm not going to stop hitting him because he might, you know, even if he falls, he might get back up. You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep hitting him until he falls. And he's busy falling. And I remember I was just hitting him, and then I saw the corner throw in the towel. And I was like, okay, now I can stop. And that was the only reason I stopped, and I walked away. The ref didn't even reach me before I stopped, you understand? So yeah, I was only stopping for that towel.
Well, a lot of unnecessary punishment for Neba, unfortunately, because of that stoppage. But I mean, rightfully so, it earned you the right to fight for the SA title, and which you did. I want to talk about a social media call-out. And I know, like, look, Chris Thompson's had his say on you. I know that you don't agree with what he's saying, and there's a whole bunch of things that go on behind the scenes in boxing. But what was your take on what he had to say in the interview I did with him?
So that's the last one, right? The one where he called me a ducker, or the cherry
picker, ducker. You apparently you didn't. He sent a contract or something like that, and you didn't.
Listen. I don't know anything about the contract. If maybe my management received it, or maybe he put in a challenge form. But I mean, if you're number 2 and the number 1 puts in a challenge form, who do you think they're going to pick? You know, BSA. You know, they're only going to sanction the number 1's challenge form because that's how that works. You know, you need to earn your stripes. And I mean, at the end of the day, just because he's fought at heavyweight, right, and signed heavyweight contracts, doesn't mean he's fought heavyweights. I don't think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's fought to South African heavyweight. Like, except for in the beginning of his career. But since he's turned back to heavyweight, I don't think he's really fought to South African heavyweight. Might be speculation on my part, but point to the matter. We can pull up the box rec, but like for me, as far as I understand, he hasn't really like. I mean, like who's the top 5 in the division right now? You know, it's Nebe, it's Fick, it's me, it's Josh, it's Sutherland, right? Like that's the top 5 in the division. He's number 2 on box rec. In any case, I don't know his BSA standings, but like, why hasn't he fought these South African heavyweights? You know what I mean? Like I know he fought Pretorius, but it was Pretorius' debut. You know, Josh's debut at that point. So I mean, I can understand that maybe that gives him a bit of like confidence. But you know, Josh is also a different fighter right now than he was in his first fight, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm the only guy. Like I said, I'm the only guy that can that can go to the rising star, right, in the South African heavyweight division's backyard. He's a knockout artist. Everybody says, listen, if Jean wins, it's going to be on points, right? And if Nebe wins, it's going to be in the first round. And everybody says that.
That was all over social media.
Yeah, everybody, you know, Drux Malan, he said, listen, I have this fight going one of 2 ways. Either John wins on points because he just throws so much volume and he doesn't really have that power, and Nebe knocks him out in round 1 or 2. And I'm like,
I think to be fair to Drux, I mean, if you go according to like how your career trajectory was, yeah, it would have ended like that in most people's minds.
100%. You know, that's what everybody thought. But what I'm saying is that I'll prove them wrong. You understand? And that's the point I'm trying to make. Is I went to his backyard, I knocked him out in 1 round, right? Like, and I don't want to talk that up. You know, I'm not a guy that does that. You know, I'm not like, oh, I'm so special, blah blah. It's just like going on the facts of the matter. You understand? Going on the facts at hand. I went to the guy that was the guy, backyard. I beat him up in 1 round. A week later, I get a challenge for the SA title. 4 days notice. I go for it. The title holder is 9-0. You know what I mean?
He was a champion for quite a while as well.
Well, he only had one. He won the vacant belt, right, against Josh, and he didn't defend it for the entire year because of cancellations and that kind of stuff. But by no means can anybody convince me that Tian Fick is a bad boxer. You know what I mean? He's a great boxer. I've shared the ring with him in sparring. I've shared the ring with him for 12 rounds when he was trying to, you know, hurt me. And he's a great boxer, you know, properly great boxer. And he's a 9-0 for a reason, you know what I mean? And then after I've beaten those 2 guys in the span of 2 weeks, right, I get called a cherry picker.
That obviously doesn't sit well with you because, like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're the champion now, right? And Josh is number 1 and Chris is number 2, I think.
On box rec, I don't know what his standing in BSA is, but like maybe BSA goes by box rec's rankings. I only check box rec. I don't check all the organizations and everything like that. I do know though that Josh is number 1 on BSA's rankings, and there's good reason for that because Chris hasn't fought a South African heavyweight that I can remember. I mean, I can't remember. He hasn't fought any of the 5. You understand what I mean? That I mentioned. Nana. He hasn't fought Josh, Sutherland, me, Fick, or I mean, like, why not go after Fick? You know what I mean? Like, and as well, why I say that is because, like, why is he calling me out immediately? You don't come up from cruiserweight, right? Come up because he's fighting 90 kg oaks. You know what I mean? Like he's fighting guys that are 90 kgs at heavyweight. So that to me just screams like, it doesn't tell me that he's a heavyweight because he's not fighting heavyweights. That tells me he's a cruiserweight that's not cutting. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, I get the social media thing and everything. I know he needs to make a brand for himself, but at the same time, you know, prove yourself first. You know, I mean, I went and I did the hard work. I went and I fought the champ at 9-0. You know, and you know, I don't know if I'm gonna meet Chris. I don't know if I'll meet him next fight. I don't know. You know, that's up to my promoter. At the end of the day, I'm now with Golden Gloves, and they're gonna call the shots when it comes to my fights and everything I get. So whatever they say, that's what we're going to do, if that makes sense. And I mean, but you know, just from a purely like what you call it, so the word escapes me now, but like from a let's call it humanitarian point of view, right? Okay. Just from a purely humanitarian point of view, it's like it seems like a lot of suspension of disbelief for him to call me out after not fighting one like of the top 5 heavyweights in South Africa.
Okay, so let me try to get this right. Are you saying he's saying it to bring his name up, but not really with the intention of fighting you?
I'm not saying that. He might properly believe that he thinks he can beat me. I don't think so. Okay, I don't think so. I really don't. You know, and I don't blow up my own head. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, I worked to be in this position. You know, I've done so much, you know, hard work. Last year I fought 5 times. You know, I earned my stripes by all intents. You know, I fought 3 times in 3 months, 2 times in 2 weeks at the end of the year. You know, I was supposed to be on vacation. You know, I had 4 days after the Nebe fight, I was eating cake, and then they're like, yeah, listen, you can fight for the title. I'm like, okay.
So was the fight a piece of cake? No, I'm just joking. But look, at the end...
I do want to say that, right? Like, at no point was the Fick fight easy. Like, at no point was the Fick fight easy.
I can see a 12-round hard fight there between you two. You guys were, like, non-stop action. So, like, credit to you both. I think at the end of the day, Fick was a good champion as well. I don't know if he's going to continue, if he's officially retired.
I don't think he's retiring.
But, I mean, you guys could end up getting in the ring again, just for, you know...
He said that he doesn't want a rematch, but we'll have to see how it goes. You know, maybe he decides at a later point that he wants the SA title again. You know, it's up to him. You know, heavyweights can go. I think he's 38 now, 37. So I mean, heavyweights can go to like 42. You know, like it's not unheard of. And I mean, he's a big guy, old rugby player. You know, he's got that muscle stamina. He's got, you know, more than muscle stamina. You get.
Muscle memory, like you know, the whole. I know what you mean. Like he's got that athletic stuff in his body. You know, he can go.
Well, I mean, like, you know, you say that, but I mean, like, well, he was playing rugby, I was playing Dota. You know, so it's like, it's.
What's a bigger sport? No, I'm joking. E-gaming's pretty big right now.
Yeah, well, you know, rugby. Yeah, you know, it's. I've wasted a lot of hours in my life playing Dota. If I played rugby for all the hours I played Dota, I might be a Springbok right now.
I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft. I don't know if you ever played that.
Yeah, so Dota is a map that was based on World of Warcraft, right? So it was like a 10-person game. I played a lot of it. So Dota 2 came out, and that's when I got into it, like in 2015. And I've put hours into that game, like properly. When I was like properly depressed in my high school years, I was putting a lot of hours into that game. It was all my free time went to Dota. So yeah.
So look, you've had a little bit of life, both sides. You've had the gaming life. Now it's like the full-on boxing life, I'm assuming. Let's talk about your new opportunity you got now. You got to defend your belt for the first time against who Chris Thompson says was a cherry pick, but he's number 1 in the rankings. Josh Pretorius. You got a lot of respect for him.
If Chris Thompson says he's a cherry pick, why doesn't he fight him? Like, you know, you don't call out the champ, call out the number 1. You know, that's what I did. that's what I did. Last year I had 3 contracts signed to fight the number 1, the number 2, and then the number 1 again. You know, I wasn't saying, listen, let me fight Fick just like that. Yeah. You know, they came to me with that offer. You know, and I took it because I was like, yeah, I can beat him, sure, let me do it. But I mean, yeah, Josh. I don't want my hesitance to seem like I've got disrespect for him. It's not the case. I'm just trying to formulate my words when it comes to giving him credit. Josh fights anybody, and that I respect a lot. that is the kind of fighter I want to be. As we're talking about Chris Thompson, you know, that is the kind of, I never want to shy away from a fight because it's difficult. Does that make sense? Sometimes fights aren't right for you because it's not the right way for your career to go right now. You understand? Like fighting down too much or etc. But Josh fights anybody. When he gets a contract, he's like, cool, let me fight. You know, he went, Nebe was 5-0. You know, and he went with 4 knockouts, you know, and Josh went, sure, let me go take him in his backyard. I'll go beat him, like convincingly as well, you know. Like, he took a bit of damage in the fight, from what I could see, but like, he beat him convincingly off that jab, off the left hooks, ducking under, you know, that was like, you could see they worked on that, you know, because that's obviously what knocked out Steenkamp, was that big left hook from Nebe, and he just, the whole time, even when he was dead tired, he just goes, yeah, I was watching that fight, and it was hard not to root for either of them. You know what I mean? I remember it was one.
You don't have a problem with any you just enjoy boxing in general. You don't have you don't look at the heavyweight division and think, oh, I might fight that guy next. I can't support him or anything like that.
So when it comes to enjoying boxing, you know, watching boxing is fun, but it gets your blood boiling. Eh? Like I don't know. It's like it's when you I don't know if you know Devin, right? Devin Curra, sorry. He was announcing a fight night for our gym here, BFA, right? And they were doing like a nice charity fight night event. And my coach was like, listen, you want to be Devin's second seat? And I'm like, sure, you know? And I remember on that fight night, Devin was commentating, and for him it comes naturally, you know what I mean? But like for me, I was watching the boxing, and I felt like I was supposed to be warming up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I was like, oh, okay, I'm at an event right now. I need to go warm up. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm going to fight next. And that was like, it was hectic for me because, you know, and that's kind of the thing. You need to, like, when it comes to boxing, you know, I like watching boxing for like the artistry involved and everything I get, you know, like, but there's a few fighters that I really like, if that makes sense, because obviously they're not just guys that go, you know. Yeah. And, there's a few fighters that I really respect, you know, and at the end of the day, I remember watching that fight, not particularly because I was very interested in how they box or anything like that, because I kind of know Nebe's style. I kind of knew, I knew beforehand what Josh was going to do, because that's what I think would have been the best option for him, because he outweighed him by about 20 kgs, right? So, and he outlengthed him as well.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, so it's like I knew what he was going to do, so that wasn't really like the reason I watched it. I was watching it because I wanted to see what was going to happen in the heavyweight division next. You understand?
Yeah, you're keeping an eye on what could happen for you.
Yeah, and I think that fight was literally one day before my fight, and it was the 25th of September, and I fought the 26th of September. I had my fourth fight, so obviously we had to see what the shake-up was going to be. You know, if Nebe won, then we were like, okay, we need to push for that fight even harder. Yeah. And if Josh won, then, you know, we'd had to go for Josh again. You know, it's like, it's just the end of the day, you know. And I think as well, I think that fight should have put Josh back at the #1 ranking, you know, because the only reason he wasn't at the #1 ranking after fighting for the SA title was because you can't fight for the title on a loss, right? So you can't be #1 on a loss against the South African heavyweight. So, when it came to that whole story, it was like, kind of lost my train of thought there. Yeah, so you can't fight for a loss. So I thought that the only reason he was at #2 was because because you can't fight for the title on a loss. So getting a win would put him back in the #1 position. Turns out it didn't. Sutherland stayed in the #1 position, luckily for me. So yeah.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask you as well was, does all roads lead to Kevin Lerena? I think that's a big question from the public, because they naturally see you, SA heavyweight champion, on your way up. He's a heavyweight, but he's only just entered the heavyweight division, but he's a huge name, former world champion. What do you think about that question?
That's a big question, right? So obviously we have the same promoter right now, so that obviously is a loaded question.
Yeah.
When it comes to Lerena, right, I don't think he wants to fight for the SA heavyweight title. I'll tell you why. I feel like it's just, you know,
I know what you're trying to say. Like, I know that there's a thing, and maybe I'll say it, like, it's below where he is now, but the SA title's still like a big deal. I understand what you're trying to like.
So the thing is, right? Like, I don't think he needs to. Let's put it that way, rather. I don't think he needs to fight me. Like, why? You know, the thing is about the heavyweight division that nobody understands, and I feel like people just like have fights on paper. You know what I mean? It's not the case. You know, even the greats lost. Why did they lose? Because anybody on any night, any guy over 100 kgs that's hitting you, and he hits you right, can spark you out. And you need to pray that your training and everything, you need to put your best foot forward, right? But I liken it to poker, right? I liken boxing to poker and chess and everything I get. When it comes to poker, right, you can have pocket aces, right? Best hand in the game. But it still only gives you an 81% chance to win if you go up against any other hand. It's only percentages, right? You can train and train and train, but you'll never get to 100% because any lucky punch can beat you on the night, right? I mean, Lomachenko seemed unbeatable, and he had not a bad showing. I scored at a draw as well against what was his name? Lopez. Yeah. So, like, but I thought Loma was untouchable, right? And then he just had a bad night, right? Yeah. It happens, you know. In the heavyweight division, it's even more prominent. I mean, you look at Tyson versus what was his first loss? You remember?
Yeah, Tyson versus he lost to Buster Douglas. No? Yeah.
I don't know if it was Buster Douglas.
It was.
Point of the matter, when he lost his first fight, he got knocked, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, it was such a surprise. I think he was a 33-1 betting underdog or something like that. The other guy, and you know, like, it's just like people don't remember these things. There are upsets. There are times you lose, and that's why you can't discount a fighter for one loss, first off, right? I mean, look what happened to Andy Ruiz, right? He lost to Parker, right? Like, if you look at the Joseph Parker fight versus Andy Ruiz, that was his only loss on his record, right? And that was a very contentious fight as well. I read somewhere that the New Zealand Commissioner for Boxing retired after that because it was such a contentious thing. So it was like, everybody discounted Andy Ruiz because, you know, he's a bit of a fatty, you know, but I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you don't know what he's hiding under all that fat, you know what I mean? It's the same as me. I'm not.
You saw what happened in the first Joshua fight.
100%. That's my point, you know. And I mean, Joshua, you know what, you know, and I think Joshua's problem with that fight is, and I think it's still with him, is that after he knocked down Ruiz, all these things that everybody kept saying was like, listen, Joshua's this bodybuilder and this is a fatty. He needs to knock him out in the first 3 rounds. He goes down in the third. Joshua's like, I need to finish now. Boom. He just hits him with that one punch because Andy Ruiz, Mexican boxers love to scrap her. They love it. It's like their bread and butter, you know what I mean? So, and he just gets concussed, and then Andy Ruiz goes on to finish him 7 rounds later, right? Or 3 rounds later in round 7. So it's like everybody discounted Andy Ruiz because of one loss. You know what I mean? It's not how.
Look where he is now. I mean, like,
I don't think he would have gotten the Joshua fight, right? Or been in the position he was. Let's put it rather that way. If, like, you know, and it's a lot of like parallels to my what happened with me, right? Because Andy Ruiz got the fight on 2 weeks' notice as well. Because the guy pulled out that was supposed to fight Joshua. I don't remember who it was at that point. I
remember it was a guy who got busted for like steroids.
Jerome Miller. Yeah, Big Baby. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. So he wasn't busted for steroids. He was busted for using a compound that made his lungs bigger. Yeah, it made him
performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, basically PEDs. But yeah, it might be a type of steroid. But you know, he wasn't like, he looks like he was on steroids as well. But I think what happens with a lot of guys that take steroids and are that big, you know, their lungs start battling too hard to get oxygen to all those big muscles, and that's why probably they take that oxygen enhancer thing. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think Andy Ruiz would have been in that position. You know what I mean? He came off a fight and he was just in that right place that night, and you know, he just got lucky, and well, not lucky, but you know, he did what he needed to do, and I was very happy about that. You know, and I mean, that shook up the heavyweight division, and I mean, Joshua looked unbeatable, didn't he?
Well, look, up until that point, I couldn't believe he got like beat by Andy Ruiz. You know, I didn't know like as much as probably some of the intel on the inside. But another thing is, like, Andy Ruiz is losing all this weight now. Like, he's with Canelo Alvarez's camp. What do you think is going to make a difference to him? Or
so, I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know why he's been so quiet. That's the one thing for me. You know, I don't like the fact that he's been so. I mean, he fought
made a lot of money in his time. Maybe that's why. It's hard to. Sometimes it's difficult to train when you're in silk robes.
Yeah, and I think I liked Devon again. He had this thing where he was like, that is the biggest. It's the biggest shit he's heard, because Canelo shows up to weigh-ins in his loafers and he still goes to business on the night. You know what I mean?
Different mindset, though. I think.
Yeah. It is difficult, obviously, but like for me, what I think personally, it might have been the fact that he accomplished his goal. I think in his head, his goal was to become the first Mexican heavyweight champion, right? And he did that. And now he's just like, what am I left? What do I need to do still? Right? And he fought Areola, and maybe he's itching for a comeback. We'll have to see. Speaking of that, I never finished my point where I said I got 4 goals in boxing.
Yeah.
So my first goal, to lose the weight. I think this is all the way from the start of the interview.
It's fine with the interviews all over the place. It's cool.
So my first goal was to have my first pro fight, because that was like, to me, was like, I want to be a professional athlete, because then that means I've turned the obesity around, I've turned everything around. My second goal was to win the SA title.
So now you're at stage 2 of your goals. You're halfway.
My third goal is to become a heavyweight champion of the world. Any of the 5 belts. Okay. Any of the 5.
So that's the journey you're on now. You're on that third. Okay.
And my fourth goal is to become the first South African heavyweight to hold more than 1 belt. That's my like end goal.
A unified champion, basically. Yeah.
I want at least 2. I want at least 2. If I can go for 5, if I make it quick, if fights come and
Are you going to be satisfied if 3 and 4 don't arise? Like, let's just say the career doesn't pan out that way. Are you going to be like quite upset about that? I know you're on your journey now. You're undefeated. You're high in confidence. But I mean, if it doesn't end up happening, are you going to be upset with that, or are you going to be happy that you were at least an SA champion?
My best friend, he tells me a lot. He's like, some people aren't meant to be content, and that for me is like a big thing. I'm gonna keep going as long as I can, as hard as I can, just until the wheels come off. And at the end of the day, if I have to settle with only being the SA champion, that's not.
It's still a big achievement.
It's not a small thing. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, I've been through such a journey already. You know what I mean? I went from obesity to a national champion. And I'm one of the 3 guys to do it in 6 fights. In the South African division.
What was your amateur career? 4 fights.
Yeah. What were the results? 3, and I lost 1, but it was a bit contentious. Okay. So it was a split decision, but I don't know how you really get a split decision over 3 rounds. That was against Jason Fall, who was at that point the best amateur. He only lost to Nebe, and Nebe had gone pro at that point, so he was technically the heavyweight South African champion of the amateur division. So that was a split decision loss, though. So it was a bit contentious, and I don't feel like I lost that fight, but it's it's up to the judges on the night, and I definitely worked like I lost that fight, because I was like, never going to happen again. And then also we realized my style's not really meant for 3 rounds, so we're not going to go for amateurs. We're going to go into the pro ranks. And, we wanted my first pro fight to be 6 rounds. And BSA came back to my manager and was like, you can't do this. You can't do this. Why are you doing this?
4 rounds, yeah.
Yeah, but then as soon as we went for the 4-rounder, we were going to go for a 6-rounder. Then COVID hit. And then obviously after a year out, we want to do a 4-rounder again, just see where everything is. And then right after that, I did a 6-rounder. Right after that, I did an 8-rounder. And then I did a 6-rounder again, obviously, because that was against Nebe, and they didn't think he could go 8. So I would have gone 10, you know what I mean? And that for me was like a thing. I was always training like I could go 10, so yeah.
I mean, anyone that watches you boxers knows that, like, why you call the Rhino. I think it's your stance, your style, the way you come forward, and you're very, like, protective. However, who gave you that name?
So that was my old coach, Steve Kelakota. Okay. So when I started training, I was training in Zakai, like I was telling you. It was just me and Steve, basically. He started. He was like doing some personal training for this one guy named Sebastian. Okay. And he basically told me, listen, you can come train. I'll give you a bit of work, and everything. Just come run with him and, you know, lose the weight, and we'll see where it goes from there. And I remember I was holding body pad for Sebastian every day just so he could go, you know. And at that point, that's the only thing you can do, you know what I mean? And then right after we'd do that, we'd go run. And that would be like the training every day, you know, sprints.
Yeah,
so
I remember seeing like you doing hill sprints and everything on social media.
When was that? That was a long time.
Ooh, that was a long time ago. That was still when Vlad and stuff were in the country.
That was with Ruan, probably. Yeah, that was probably a video with Ruan. Like, yeah, I've been going at it for, like I said, 5 years. You know, it's just been proper. You know, when lockdown hit, I was doing just training on my own. You know what I mean? It was a hard thing, but you know, it was. I went at it and I kept, you know, and I lost a bit of weight actually during lockdown. You know, I trained twice a day for the whole lockdown basically. It wasn't hectic sessions, but it was, you know, was a lot.
I mean, now, no disrespect, you had you start your career as well. You joined PFA. It looks like things changed a little bit. Like you upped your level. Would that be a fair assessment?
So I never talk down about old coaches or anything like that. I don't think it necessarily is upping my level. It might just be a different environment, you know, more boxes and everything like that. Me and Steve, we separated. You know, it's one of those things. But you know, I hold no bad blood or anything like that. And at the end of the day, no, I don't see it as upping my level at all. I do see it as a change of scenery, a change of environment and everything I get. And I love my coach right now. He's doing a lot of things for me that I think are different than what used to.
So it's just different methods, maybe?
Different methods, yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I've trained with, I'd say, 5 big coaches. Like, not big, but like in my life I've had 5 big influences. Does that make sense? So there was, Steve was the first one. Then it was Bashir. Then it was Osborne Mashimane, because he trained me on the farm as well. Okay. And there was a Ukrainian coach, Ukrainian amateur coach. That was what was his name?
Now you're gonna struggle now because it's one of those Ukrainian names, isn't it?
No.
Is it a simple name?
It was like Alex. No. I don't wanna.
Don't butcher it.
Yeah, I don't wanna, because they have like English names, not English names, but easier to say.
I remember him there because he was here. He was a proper top coach.
Yeah, he was. No, so that was Anatoly. So Anatoly was like also, but then they brought in another Ukrainian coach for Vlad, who was like also. So there was 2, but I didn't really train with Anatoly. I trained with. Yeah, I feel so bad that I can't remember his name, but yeah. So there was him, and then obviously Mike, you know, in Fukile. So those are the 5 big influences in terms of my style. And you know, there was, you know, Steve focused on brutality. You know what I mean? Just going, every shot needs to be a knockout. You know what I mean? And you know, I've incorporated that. Then Osborne was a bit more. Bashir was a bit more on the technical side. He took slow pads. He wanted you to work on your fitness in terms of your shadow boxing and your conditioning and your bag work. That was your fitness. But when it came to pads, he was very methodical. He was like, listen, just hit it. And I remember he told me, he's like, stop trying to punch so damn hard, you might hit it. And I was like, oh, okay, you know.
I'm sure you'll appreciate that.
Nah, you know, I love Bashir. He, you know, on the farm, I remember they gave the 3rd time I went, they gave me like my own like apartment, and I not apartment, but like a room. Yeah, like a shared living space. You know, it was 1 room, another room, and a bathroom and a kitchen and a living room kind of area. No TV or anything like that, but you know, it was nice. And Bashir lived there with me. And like we bonded a lot, and you know, he's been a great influence in terms of everything in my life, you know. He's a great guy. You know, he taught me a lot. But then Osborne kind of mixed volume and the power output and the volume, you know, and then. You know, the Ukrainian coach, and I feel so bad I can't remember his name. Yeah.
You're going to remember it straight after this interview as well.
100%, that's how it works. But he fixed a lot of my form issues, right? Like I remember I wasn't throwing a proper hook, and he literally, he was very hardcore. Yeah, because obviously Ukrainians, they're very hardcore. No, they're hardcore. You know, everybody wants to box, so only the cream of the crop get it. You know, I think Vlad couldn't get his pro license in Ukraine. That's why he came to South Africa, and he was like a national champion. Yeah.
Some serious news as well.
So like, he was properly like on the form side, and I remember my right hook was struggling. So he'd make me literally. Can I show for the camera?
Go. Yeah.
He'd make me literally stand in front of a bag and throw like this. Yeah. Like that. Day in, day out. I think I did that for about 4 days. The skin on my elbows came off because they made me go at it. And that's how I finally, and then he's like, at the end of 4 days, I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, now add the end. I'm like, okay. And that's when I finally fixed that right. And now Mike, he loves volume, right? He loves volume. He's a guy that believes in volume punching, winning rounds on volume and pure pressure alone, you know. And I've taken all the influences from my other coaches and I'm kind of working it into my style right now. You understand? And I feel like I've got all the bases covered. Got the technique, got the power, got all that stuff. You know, all that stuff I've learned. I'm working that into its logical conclusion, which is throwing as many of those punches, those perfect punches, as possible. And that's like my thing.
Let's talk about another pressure, because often in South Africa, when boxers get some success, they tend to head north towards Gauteng. Any of those in your plans, or you Cape Townian through and through? You want to stay here?
So obviously we've signed with a Gauteng promoter in Golden Gloves, but I don't see myself moving to Joburg anytime soon. My life is here, you know what I mean. We'll have to see what the future holds, but you know, I mean, I'm still happy where I am. You know, I'm living with my parents. They don't seem to want to get rid of me anymore after I won the title.
You're famous. They want to keep you. They want to keep you to themselves.
Yeah, I remember it was the first time I've seen my dad cry. I did so well in school. I told my dad, I was like, listen, if I knew it was this that would make you proud, you know, I never would have done so good in school. And then I was sorry, Mike's just shaking his head because we're talking so long. So, you know, my best friend is here, my girlfriend's here, you know, so it's like, and obviously my gym is here, you know, so it's like Mike is here, you know, it's like, he can't leave his business, you know, and it's like, it'll be too much of an adjustment. And I think, like, why mess with the winning formula right now? You know what I mean? Like, I like where I am right now. I like where I'm, you know, and it's the thing as well, you know, 90% of boxing is mental. If you're not in the right mental space on the night of the fight, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be performing your best. You're not going to be doing well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, rather be at the place that makes you happy, and then the 10% physical, you just take care of you on your own, you know.
John, well, one last question to you. We had a nice long one here today. What is your prediction, your actual prediction? I know you're predicting a win, but do you have an actual prediction for the Josh Pretorius fight?
So this is the one thing, right? I don't like making predictions, right? I really don't. And I know that's like a cop-out answer or whatever, but it's like, like I told you earlier, one punch can change the entire fight, you know? And for me, I never want to be that guy that says, listen, you know, I really want to knock this guy out in the first round and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, you know, you just get proven wrong, you know, because at the end of the day, while God plans, or while men plan, God laughs, right? That to me is like a big thing. At the end of the day, the reason I took the Fick fight was because I thought it was God's plan for me. You know, I mean, I didn't
You just went with it.
I didn't take it because I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I can like win this convincingly or anything like that. I didn't. I really didn't. I thought 12 rounds is going to be a struggle. I'm going to try to win 8. You know what I mean? That to me was my plan going into the Fick fight, right? Because I knew he was training for a 12 rounder, I was training for a 6 rounder.
You had never fought 12 rounds in your life.
Never even fought 10. Luckily, I had the 8 rounds with Didier, right? And I remember the punch output I gave there. I was like, okay, at least comfortably I can do 8, right? So I want to win 8. And then the first round came, I was like, guess I got to push for 9 tonight. But then, you know, it's like, I don't like putting that kind of those predictions out into the world, because at the end of the day, you know, I want to win. I don't even predict a win. Like, if that makes sense, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's.
But you're confident enough to win, right?
I'm not going to call it confidence. I'm going to say that I feel like I'm on the right path. And at the end of the day, if God feels that that is the path I need to be on, then that's the path I need to be on. If He feels I need to take a loss, you know, maybe bring my ego down, whatever the case might be, you know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, I can't explain to you. I thought my third fight was going to be easy. I thought my third fight was going to be easy, my hardest night of my life. Properly. I almost died. Like, I thought I was going to die. After the first punch that guy landed, right? My entire right eye swelled up. Mike had to take metal every round and push down the swelling from one punch. That was the hardest night of my life, and I thought it was going to be easy. And that's why I say it's not, I'm not going to venture any guesses. I'm not going to predict anything. I will go on the night, I will give my best, and I will put my best foot forward. And if that's what God wants for me, that's what's going to happen. That is my thing. And I can't be convinced that that's wrong, you know, and that's why I don't like people that say, I'll knock him out early, blah, blah, blah. And luckily, you know, Josh is a great guy, you know, and he says the same thing. He doesn't like predictions, you know, because at the end of the day, you don't know what can happen. This is the heavyweight division. That's the part people don't understand. Yeah, it's an unpredictable division, you know. I mean, and coming back to your Chris Thompson question, you know, him saying he can knock me out early, like, what is he basing that on? Like, honestly, I've never been knocked down in my entire, like, career as a professional. Not in my career as an amateur either. I think I've been knocked down once to the body in sparring by Vlad, and at that point I was 150 kgs, and he hit me. That is
a damn beast as well.
He hit me in the liver, my legs went down.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't believe in call out. I don't believe in call outs like that in terms of predicting fights and everything like that. I get it sells fights. I get that. And, you know, I might start doing it in the future, right? Because I need to sell fights. But, you know, my personal opinion will always be, if God wants it for me, that's what's going to happen. If God doesn't want it for me, that's what's going to happen as well.
Right, well, that's the thoughts of South African heavyweight champion Juan Roux. Lastly, I'd like to give you the chance. You want to send any thank yous or shout outs to anybody?
So, yeah, I'd like to thank obviously my coach, Mike Menemne. He's you know, I was in a very, like, bad place after COVID in terms of boxing, not having any motivation. He took me from someone that just didn't want to box anymore, basically, to someone that won the SA title within a year. You know what I mean? 53 weeks, and he won me that SA title. You know, it's amazing. You know, I want to thank PFA. You know, just for taking me in. Everybody's always so nice to me here. You know, it's just been such a nice thing here. And then my manager, Savas, who's just taken me from you know, day one, and he's just been there, you know, and Bossa, you know, the people that have also, the sponsors that have literally been there since day one as well, and Golden Gloves, you know, for being my new promoters, and, you know, taking me in and everything like that. Yeah, I'm very happy about that, and you know, lastly, my parents for supporting me, you know. All the petrol money they've spent, yeah, it's ridiculous, you know. And my girlfriend for always being there for me, and also my best friend. I forget him, and he's gonna be angry if I forget him. He's my gym partner as well, Kabir. He's been more than a best friend. He's been a mentor to me, you know, and he's just been there, you know, every day, you know, and he just, yeah, takes good care of me, and I really appreciate him for that. So yeah, that's a long list, but yeah, that about covers it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, obviously, for speaking to us, and all the best with your fight.
Thank you, man. I don't know how much of this you're gonna keep, because this is like an hour. Is it? Sure. Okay.